So today I'm going to be taking you through the process of accessing the front buttons, the face buttons of your Anbernic 406V. Why you would want to change the buttons is up to yourself. I changed the buttons around from the normal Nintendo way of arranging them to the Xbox way. For example, here is the layout that it normally comes with the B at the bottom and the A at the right. Whereas I've swapped them around to be the Xbox way. We've got A at the bottom, B. And the reason why I wanted to swap them back around again is because a lot of Nintendo games, for example, if you're playing Castlevania, the first instinct when you're pressing the game is to jump by pressing the B button, or the bottom at the bottom, sorry. And in the old layout, that would be the yellow B button. But since you swapped them around, jump is now here. And it just didn't feel right to be jumping by pressing up here. I want to jump by pressing the bottom button, regardless of what letter is on it. So I've learned my lesson, because a lot of the games that I'm playing on this are actually PlayStation and Super Nintendo games. So yeah, it just didn't really feel right to have this layout. So I'm changing them back. But in the process, I thought I'd talk you through how I did it, in case you wanted to have a go at it yourself. And if you've ever taken apart a 405V, it's very similar. But I just thought, since there may be people out there who have this one and don't have the old one and was wondering if it was similar, it is very, very similar. So what you're going to need in order to take apart this is a Torx head screwdriver. This is a T7 Torx head screwdriver. You're going to use this to take apart remove the first 6 screws on the back. Then you're going to need a Phillips head or flathead screwdriver that is very small. I'm not sure the exact size. I think it's a 000. And that is going to be taking apart the inner bits. And the reason why you see here I've added this bit of tape is because I couldn't get a good grip on enough of this to get these smaller screws removed, because they are very, very tight. And there's a good reason why, which we'll get into. So let's start with our T7, and we're going to take out these 6 screws in the back. Okay, so we have all 6 screws removed from the back. The next step is to actually remove this back shell. And how we're going to do that is by using a pick, guitar pick, or a plectrum, whatever you want to call it. And what we're going to do is we're going to jam the plectrum, or your plastic implement, in here, down at the bottom, in this little bottom crease. And we're going to try and pop our way along, pushing these little plastic tabs out from beneath this shell. And once those bottom ones are out, there's a couple of them that are held in up at the top that are going to pop out much easier. So let's apply a little bit of force. Make sure you got a good grip on the device. And get your plectrum in. And once you've forced it in, slide the plectrum around. And you should hear the two pops. Once you've got that little gap forming in the crack here, you should be able to now just prise the two apart, get your plectrum in again, and slide it up to the top, and that should be it. Loose. These two top ones in here just come away like that. And now we've got the back of the device open. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So we'll leave this over to the side here. Now, as you can see, we've got the battery here, and this is connected to this little connector up here, this white one. That needs to be removed. And then this whole kind of plastic section down here needs to be removed to get us access to the buttons. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total screws. And then we need to remove this connector and this big long white connector here. And yeah, and also these two things at the bottom, these two speakers. And how I've been removing these connectors is, again, with our tiny screwdriver and my thumbnail on either side of it. I kind of gently pull down. You need a little bit of force. And then once it's out, that can be pulled away to the side. And then it should be connected into the little clip down here as well. And that can be pulled out. And once that's disconnected, we can lift this up and out. So now we can see what needs to be taken away. We've got a screw here, screw here, screw here, screw here, two on the back here, another one down here, and then our two screws that connect down here, and two more over here. Now, with these first three screws connected up here taken off, this plastic section will start to come loose. The only thing that you need to do now is disconnect this circular object to this connector down here, and that'll allow you to take this whole bit fully off. So again, it's very similar to when we were taking out the battery. Now with that connector loose, this section should just lift off. And now we have the final bit of removing the screws, which is this back plate here. And these are also connected to the two speakers. So I think I'm going to remove the two speakers first. So they have an individual little connector down here. And then they have two sets of screws, or four sets of screws. A set of 4 screws connecting them to the back plate. Now, with the speakers removed, we just need to take out 1, 2, 3, 4 more screws. So with the 4 screws removed, this back plate now is completely loose apart from this section here, this horizontal white bit. And this, you need to actually, there's a white bit on top and then there's a horizontal black bit at the bottom. And this black bit needs to be like flipped up. So I'm just going to get my screwdriver in here and I'm going to prise it up. Maybe I should have a better angle with my nails. Just pull it up and it kind of flips up like that. And once that's free, you can lift up this back section. Ah, wait, you can't. Once that's free, what you now need to do is to flip your device over. And what's stopping it from being pulled up is actually the thumbsticks. So what you'll need to do is to flip it over and pull each thumbstick off. They should just pop off. And now the back plate should be completely free to be removed. Now, with the back plate removed, there's something that you need to be precautious of here, is that in here, there are 2 of these white thumbstick covers. These are very soft, and they're kind of loose, and so they will fall out if you're not careful. And as well as that, this button here is completely loose as well at the moment. But what we want to get access to flip our buttons around is this, under this rubber cover here. So I'm just going to pull it off. And now we have access to our buttons. So I'm just going to flip them around to the way that I want, but this would be the place that you wanted to, if you wanted to replace your buttons or change them around, or you wanted to take them out and color them maybe, or if you had your own custom buttons you wanted to put in. I'm going to place my A button here, making sure that I have the actual letter going in correctly. I'm just going to look underneath and make sure that I've got that right. Okay. And then the B button is on the bottom. Double check. Yep. We've got our Y button where our X used to be on the right hand side. That looks okay. And our X button is now on top. So let's just have a quick, put my hand over the back so that they don't fall out, and let's just have a quick look. Oh, as you can see, the X isn't right. So you notice that whenever you're putting the buttons in, they have these sort of little grooves, and that matches the grooves on the button themselves. So let's put the hand over. Let's double check again. That looks good. Now, once we have everything done, we're going to reassemble the device. One thing actually we need to do before we do that is reapply our rubbery bit. So you want to make sure that you've got the little sticky out bits are facing down into the device. And it should connect by pushing down the 4 corners of each bit, goes into their each little respective slot. With your buttons realigned the way you want them, what we're going to do now is reassemble the device. Some things to think about when you're reassembling are that these 2 rubbery little membranes on the inside, these white circular bits, those are very, very easy to fall out. So when you're reapplying the back plate, the two thumbsticks that stick out there have to go inside those little white holes. And what can happen is that the thumbsticks accidentally push up against those white holes and push them through the other side, you see? But at the same time, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to connect this strip, this black strip here at the top, inside this white horizontal section on the top here, and then clip it back down again. So I think the best way to do that is to attach this first to the clip, then drop the analog sticks through the little holes. It's very finicky, but the problem with it is if you put the analog sticks in first and then try to clip the hole in, I found it very, very difficult to get it at the right angle. But if you do it first, just slide it in, push the black strip in until it reaches the end, and then clip that down. And now we want to be quite gentle in how we gradually drop the back plate down, making sure, just having a look underneath, making sure that our thumbsticks are coming through the holes. You see? That looks good to me. The back plate is resting down on it, and the top plate is clipped in. Now all we need to do is to reapply our screws. And one thing to know, as I mentioned before, is that these screws now, these 4 screws that hold this plate in place, are what will determine the softness of the D-pad. So I like my D-pad being very tight feeling. I don't want it spongy. So you want to tighten these screws really, really tight. Now this could be a good opportunity now as well to flip it over and actually press on the D-pad. And if it's feeling a little loose, you need to tighten it. So the D-pad is feeling basically the way it felt before, which has got its nice a little bit of some kind of, it's not exactly a click, but it's got some kind of like feeling that you're hitting a button. It's not so soft and spongy. So I think at this stage too, I'm going to reapply my thumbsticks, my analog sticks, push them down. There we go. Next, I'm going to return our speakers to their position. So they have the correct speaker direction on each one, determined by the letter written in the bottom right. But you should be able to see, because of the arrangement of the actual screw positions, they should just slot in to the positions down here. Okay, so with the 4 screws in the speakers and the 2 little wired connections back into their place, we're now ready to add this panel back on. So you should have this circular bit here on the top. It should just rest on here. One thing we need to do while we're here as well is, I think actually we'll do after we've put the screws on, but there's a connection here, remember, that needs to go right into this little slot. But first we'll get the screws on. So there should be 3 screws here, 1, 2 and 3 down the bottom. Okay, with the back plate on, we're going to now reattach this little dangly bit here into its little slot, which is at the top left of our panel that we've just attached. And with that fully attached, we can now reinsert the battery. The battery should go on with the cable to the right hand side, on like this, back into its place. Then we want to push this little white dangly bit back into its slot. Just pushing it up in enough to feel like it's snug. Then I'm going to push the cable back into its little resting place. And there you have it. So the back plate is ready to go back on. We have this connection here, which is the circular connection going back into the panel, and we have our battery connected, and we also didn't forget to connect back our 2 little red wires here that connect the speakers, and that should be everything. Let's have a little look at the front panel, make sure everything looks good. Everything's feeling the same way that it did before. We're happy. Now we need to simply reconnect the back panel, and that's us. So when you're reconnecting the panels, obviously you want to clip these little clips that we prized apart with our plectrum at the beginning. Need to be re-clicked back into place. So just apply a little bit of pressure to the corners. You should hear them click back in, and down at the bottom. Now with them on, we need to reapply our screws back with our Torx screwdriver. And with the 6 screws in, all you need to do now is double check that everything looking good.